right, guys, first and foremost, I'm going to start this differently. I'm going to say thank you so much, universe, source, God, whatever it is that we call it, for this platform, because I've manifested this a couple of months ago, and I will get into that a little bit later. But I want to start by asking all of you, think about your favorite nature thing, things that you do in nature, something that makes the heart sick, something that really gets the creative juices flowing. Whether it be kissing that love of your life under a tree, swimming in the sea, what does it make you feel? And I want you guys to use your hearts, because we don't use our hearts for what is really intended to anymore. So just to make that connection. And I will give you a little bit of an example in terms of my life. So when I was very young, in my community that I lived, everyone had gardens. And the beauty about this community was we bartered. So my mom used to grow the most beautiful red carnations, and someone would peek across the fence and say, I've got yellow ones, can we do a swap? And this is how people grew gardens. Cut out the nurseries, we don't have any money for that. And as a child, I remember feeling super safe. Wherever I ventured in my community, I knew everyone had my back. That also lessened the scope for things that you shouldn't be doing because everyone was watching. And I thought to myself, okay, so why keep on going back to this memory? And I realized it's because I felt safe, and it came from here. And we don't have that anymore. But the beauty about that is it all started with the bartering of nature. And that to me was absolutely fantastic. My journey with plant spirit, or plant life as I call it, started in my early 20s. I was down and out. And I went to my mentor, best friend and brother-in-law, crazy Canadian guy called Salinas Jolliffe, that basically started the very first successful food security project in the Western Cape at a time that governments weren't even thinking about this. And I said to him, listen, I feel like a failure. I don't know what to do here. And he said to me simply, go and find yourself in the soil, Anneline. And for 2 to 3 years, people that couldn't read or write, ex-farm laborers, taught me far more than what I ever learned in high school, university, or any of those places of knowledge. They taught me how to work the soil. They taught me the importance of water. They taught me how to really appreciate that seedling that you planted, because now it is food. It's sustenance. So fast forward a couple of years or later on in my life, and I started as head of my town's Heritage Herb Project, and I knew nothing about medicinal plants, let alone indigenous medicinal plants. The only 2 memories at that interview that I could recall when they asked me, what do you know about medicinal plants? I said, well, my grandmother Irene used to force us during winter times to go and pull stinging nettles, and she didn't even give us a dime. And we had to go and pull these things, and she would make a fire outside, put all of these stinging nettles in a pot, and cook this thick syrup. And it tasted vile, but that's what we drank during wintertime. The second one is of my mother, always laboring away and always drinking her cup of holy thistle tea. Now, holy thistle in South Africa is also known as karmedik. I don't go into botanical names, it's very much tongue twisters. I stick with the common names. And karmedik is used extensively, especially in poorer communities, for the side effects of cancer, cancer treatments, and things like that. So these were my 2 memories. And they said, well, you're hired. And it was 3.5 years of learning about this country's insane medicinal plants. I mean, we have 2,000 plants in this country. Well, more or less, that's classified as medicinal. But the incredible thing about this is 70% of this country's people rely on our medicinal plants. This includes barks, roots, tubers, to help them to aid and facilitate in their healing, because there is no money for medical aid schemes. So you have to go out into nature and you have to rely on a plant to cure a cold so that you can be ready and off for work tomorrow. The other interesting about our medicinal system, that in 2018, it's reckoned it was an 18 billion rand industry, very much not regulated, but that's a story for another day. And it opens up a lot of discussions. So this was the world that I found myself in, but the beauty about this world was my growth spiritually and understanding healing far differently. But a couple of months ago, I'm sitting at the computer and I'm thinking, geez, you know, I can't do this anymore. I couldn't understand it because here I am living my passion. And I can remember that day, I'm watching a TED talk and switching off the computer, and please don't ask me what talk I was watching. And I said to myself, wow, what a brilliant platform this is. I would really like to share the beauty of plant life, plant spirit, and healing with the world or whomever is watching. A month later, I resigned. A week later, one of the organizers for this event phoned and asked, would you please be a speaker here? I promise you, manifestation has never, ever happened that fast in my life. The journey continued after that. And Mother Nature didn't want to leave me alone. And one of my friends approached me, a new friend, and she said, I really want to understand Kagen, the concept in the Khoisan community, that deity. And I said, well, it's such a big thing, you know, Kagen, and I might be pronouncing this wrongly because it is a Khoi word. Kagen is normally depicted as the praying mantis, or it's also said that he was the trickster god. And I said, in order for us to understand this concept and do a documentary on something like this and teach the people of South Africa about the First Nation tribes, let's go to Oudtshoorn and let's go to my favorite chief in the whole wide world, a guy called Chief Pum Mooney, and he's the chief for the Ataqua Khoi, lives in Oudtshoorn, so it's that reason. So we in Hessequa now, when you're in Oudtshoorn, you're going to be in Ataqua country. And this guy is a storyteller of note. And what happened or what started out as the journey for us to search for Kagen became a journey of finding the water maidens. Now, the internet is wonderful. You guys need to go and read up on the water maidens of the Klein Karoo. But basically, the gist of this mythology in the Khoi religions it's a water being that the ancients, before they cross rivers, they would pay homage to what we know as mermaids and what the Khoi people would call the watermeide, or the water maidens. And they would throw flowers on the river to appease her and ask for safe passage across the river. And we got some insane testimonials of people that saw her and just that whole story. So we came back to Montagu and we were like, wow, right, that was such a journey. But what happened for us and what stood out for us was the fact that here you have this mythology by an ancient tribe explaining why water is so important. It is the source, and how they honored this source. So we decided in compiling this documentary that we're going to make it, number one, available and free for all, and secondly, once it's, and in that instance of doing this documentary, I realized after reading anthropologist Penny Barnard, because we contacted her and asked her views on the water maiden in the First Nation tribes. And she says in her writings that it is a deity that all the ancients, that is what connected all the ancients. There's always a story about water. But she also studied the shamanic rituals in First Nation tribes, especially of South Africa. And what she says there is that the ancients or the shamans would actually pray over the water first, realizing that the plant, the medicinal plant, would absorb this water, and then they would use their hearts, the intent, to pray over that plant, and then administer that as a thing for healing. And then I realized, right there in that second, this is what made me disconnect. Because it was always about feeding the 18 billion rand machine. It has become exactly like Western medicine. I started an online shop, and it was this event and that event. And the purpose was not healing with these plants anymore. The intent became more money, another feather in the cap, a pat on the back. And that didn't resonate or sat well with me. And that is why I resigned. So that was the second good thing that happened this year. The last one, a farmer in our area contacted me and he said, Anneline, I'm busy with regenerative farming practices. So I went out to this farm and I thought, boy, you could just see the difference. And we had this talk earlier on this morning about regenerative farming practices. Man, when you see it in action, where a farmer is actually inviting nature in and working with nature as a whole, you see it and it is incredible. And I said, brilliant, but what's my role here? And he said, I want you to work with the people that lives on this farm. Because all of those areas that we're not going to dig up to make room for more things to grow, to push out onto a market, I want you to work with them because I know that there's knowledge trapped in this community living on this farm. You should remember these are the descendants of the Khoi people. And this is how knowledge used to be passed forward. Word of mouth, not books. And these are people that doesn't realize that it's in their DNA. It's there. And we just need to give them the time to untap it again, to start tapping into it. So that's what I started doing. I've been to the farm 5 times now, and I'm working with a team of 4 people. And the most amazing thing is that they are now teaching me about what to eat in the field. I will never ever go hungry if ever I'm lost in the field, I can tell you that. And my journey with them is one where we are now very sustainably taking cuttings from nature, looking at the plants, studying, and we're going through studying them through observations, using every sense. And then I realized, hey guys, this is Kagen. This is the connection. This is what it means. It's the ancients' way of how we used to live with the earth. The prayer that went from first source right to where we heal. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to end off by saying, I don't know where the disconnect happened. In a country where we are divided so much by race, religion, class, and all of those things, but not just in this country. South Africa is not special when it comes to things like that. Globally these days, and things are being added, and we are disassociating every single day. We need to go back to nature. Well, that's at least what I think. The director of Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens, Mr. Rupert Koopman, tweeted on Heritage Day, today, South Africa, let us rather celebrate our shared heritage, which is our plant kingdom. And he posted this beautiful picture of the 8-day healing bush. In Afrikaans, 8 dae geneesbos. It heals you within 8 days. Beautiful, beautiful plant. And I thought, that is such a profound statement that you could actually take globally. Instead of focusing on what we are being told daily that divides us and then we disconnect, let's look at the things that actually ties us together. Because Hottentot's bedding in this country, in the Western Cape, becomes kooigoed. In the Eastern Cape, it's used for this. In the Western Cape, it's used for the other. And we can tell our stories about this and share that. And that is how we connect. It is so important. I found a quote by Steve Maraboli. I don't know this guy from a bar of soap, but it resonated with me. He said, plant seeds of happiness, hope, success, and love, and it will all come back to you in abundance, for that is the law of nature. It's a fantastic law, and yes, it really works. But I want to go deeper than that. I want to say, this wind, this horrible wind that was outside today, let's stand in that wind and take all of those seeds, bucket loads of it, and let it spread globally. Those seeds of happiness, hope, success, love. Because where it falls and it germinates, that is where the connection will lie. Nature teaches us that we are all one, ladies and gentlemen. We come from one. There are so many metaphors out there. Think about the concept of companion planting in your gardens. So I become your companion, you become my companion, and we work towards a better future. I know it sounds optimistic, but hey, it's my truth. And this is what Plant Spirit taught me. Thank you so much.